leg, but I've gained so much. I got my joy back.
We got our mom back, thanks to DAV.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans like Sandy get the health and disability benefits they've earned.
My victory is getting my life back.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So one of the things we try to do here in the Fast Lane is avoid just repeating the same story again and again. You can tune in to certain, I make fun of these people a lot. They are very well compensated though. So, hey, if that's the route you want to go, good for you. But hot take artists who use the same topics again and again. The Dallas Cowboys, the Los Angeles Lakers, even more prevalent right now, the New York Knicks. TroSlaw.com fast take coming about them in just a moment. Oh, those sophisticated New Yorkers. Doesn't everyone want to behave just like them? Might even be more insufferable than Philadelphia sports fans. And I get there's a pot kettle element to me saying that, but yeesh. Just check out social media and you'll know what we're talking about. But the reason why we start the Fast Lane repeating a story we discussed yesterday is because there is more information now about what's transpiring with Brendan Sorsby. And the nerve it has struck with me is it goes at the crux of everything that we tune to sports for, which is, at the bare minimum, seeing individual athletes and teams putting all of their baggage aside, competing as hard as they can to give themselves the best chance to win. And when you're involved in betting, and look, I may do it recreationally. Let's get our confession on for just a moment. You know, I view it as entertainment. It's money I can afford to lose. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose, but it's not tied to the kids' savings plan, you know, my wife's vacation fund, or household expenses. It is a slush fund, essentially. But even that, it's done with the guise of everybody involved is doing their best. Now, I am not so naive as to not understand or believe that bad people have not corrupted sports betting. If multimillionaire from Hargrave, Terry Rozier, can be engulfed in something like this, Chauncey Billups as well. Heck, you could argue maybe the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan, involved in something like this. He certainly was a high-stakes wager when it came to golf outings. Granted, risking 10 grand a hole when you're worth like $4 billion, you can probably afford to do that. Normal people, probably not a good idea. But never at any point are you wanting to sit there and believe these people might be tempted to not perform at their best for their team, for themselves, or whatever else we're doing. And I get it. There's certain times where, I mean, I'm a tennis fan, but let's just say if you somehow made my wife's USTA tennis match something you could bet on at an offshore sports book, that's a flag raiser. Let's get a grip here on life here. Okay. I get it. People are degenerate to a certain point, but if you're betting on things like that, and yes, you can bet on far-flung ITF matches and God knows where, you might need to go to Central Virginia Counseling. They can help you through with their addiction recovery and treatment plans. They are the experts, not us, but we do need to mention that here in the Fast Lane. But that's why the whole Brendan Sorsby thing has struck a nerve. At its core, I can deal with PEDs and, steroids, I was looking for the word, much better than I can deal with the possibility of throwing a game. I'd rather see Bonds, Clemens, McGuire, and Sosa in the Hall of Fame than Pete Rose. I just would. They're at least, some of them are even more despicable people than others, but the reality is they're trying their best to help their team win. Do you really know that when someone's betting? And that's the crux of this whole thing with Brendan Sorsby. And look, I'm not the only one. Like, the reason why we're bringing it up again here in the Fast Lane today is last night, after we signed off in the Fast Lane, new developing news. If this was on CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC, they would have big graphics with caps locks and red and black font to call attention to the matter. Of course, they could also do that. Breaking news. The president has landed in New York for the basketball game. Breaking news. No, former President Joe Biden is golfing today. I mean, they take it to a ridiculous extreme. But the breaking news is Brendan Sorsby will be suspended for Texas Tech's first two games of the season. And this is where the development from last night comes in. Officials from Nebraska and Georgia were the first ones to send out department-wide memos instructing their coaches and support deputies to not schedule Texas Tech in any sports. There are now thoughts that the Big Ten as a conference is considering that. Granted, it doesn't look like anybody has scheduled Texas Tech from any of these big conferences because look at their football schedule this year, but maybe other sports it makes sense. And even the Big 12 is now looking at meeting later this week to discuss it. Look, I have a bet on Texas Tech, presuming Sorsby is not going to play, to go undefeated and to win the Big 12. I don't want him playing, even if theoretically it makes that bet more favorable, because I can see beyond that and say, I'd rather the integrity of the game matter. If we're not focused on that, what in the world are we even doing here? And I think it's great that the schools and their athletic departments are sending out memos. And then you can't help but wonder, particularly Nebraska, because the Big Ten is also reportedly looking at making sure schools do not schedule Texas Tech in any sport. Are they at the point now where they're saying the NCAA, which basically operates at the behest of school presidents, think academia here? Are these people basically saying, hey, y'all are in academia, kind of living in la la land over there, in your own little world. We operate in the real world, which is the business world. And in the business world, we understand what could compromise the entire cash cow better than y'all over there in academia. Y'all on the Roy bus, as Clemson's Dabo Swinney often has termed it, the rest of y'all bus. Because I get it that ultimately the school, the people who have
lots of power
are often the people that are involved is school presidents. But let's not kid ourselves here. Those people often act at the direction of the board of visitors of particular schools. And we've seen in certain spots, Virginia Tech's an example, are operating with the presumption. You're making bets on the presumption that every coach, player, and people around that program are at least trying their best to achieve a certain outcome that benefits that team. And therefore, you can make your bets and presumptions based upon that. If we're talking throwing games, like that's actually not what bettors want, because it adds a level of unpredictability. Nobody can figure that out. And I don't have any sympathy for it. I don't. Okay, other kids in college, by the way, JJ, let me ask you a question. Were you somebody who bet at all while you were at Virginia Tech? Is that a thing for you?
No, honestly, I'm not a big gambler. I pay attention to all the games, but it feels like as soon as I put money down on it, the result I'm anticipating just does not happen. So I do my best to stay away from it.
Hey, I don't discourage that. Again, I'm not one who's like, you should give it another try. Look, I get it. I have a much different approach. But I'll also say this and ask this. Is it something that is culturally a big deal with people that you were classmates with when you were at Virginia Tech?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like just about every night, anytime I went out with friends, they were talking about what parlay they had money on or what money line they're taking. And it gets to a point you get tired of hearing about it.
By the way, we beep out the word parlay in the fast lane because it is the biggest sham that's out there. Like, seriously, 3-team parlay should pay you about 8-to-1 odds. You're getting it at like 5-to-1 odds. So you're getting ripped off. Like, as long as you know you're getting really ripped off, go ahead and do it. It's the equivalent of sitting there saying, I can fill up my gas tank and get the same quality gas in one location for $3.73 a gallon. But I'd rather go somewhere else and just pay $4.15 a gallon just because. Like, if you know you're getting ripped off and you're the person across the street paying $4.15 when the other guy has it for $3.73, God bless you. It's a free country. Go ahead and throw your money away. But don't do it if you really value smart decision making. But I asked that question to say this. Colleges are rampant with people that are in sports betting. I'm not saying it's the only spot, but that's where Brendan Sorsby, his environment is around other people on a college campus where you're exposed to it, whether you like it or not, even if you're an athlete going to class.
Yeah, I want to say I saw a stat at one point that over 50% of college students actually participate in sports gambling semi-regularly. So it's just about everyone you see out there. It's become such a normal part of culture, and it's kind of frightening to see at this point.
It is. It is in the sense that, when you get older, you can regulate. It's kind of like alcohol to an extent. Like, the older you get, It doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it. Plenty of people are older, and some people can have an adult beverage and enjoy themselves. I've been around plenty of my family where you have one sip and it just changes you, and the body chemical makeup, you can't put on the brakes, and it's just how God made you. And hey, you got certain blessings, but that's not one of them. And you got to know that. It's the same thing, I think, with sports betting. And it's at a young age where you don't know how to regulate it. And by the way, this is somebody who went to a traditional 4-year college. I know a lot of classmates of mine who they had to go to, this was before betting, but they had to go to rehab because you were used to consuming alcohol a lot in college, and you kind of get away with the stupid shenanigans that you do there. Then you get in the real world and you're like, okay, this isn't going to fly, but your body's so used to it, you have to literally downshift and rethink your entire relationship with it. And I think the same thing is there with sports betting. And you brought it up with Brendan Sorsby, and we've discussed it. My thing is, I do treat athletes differently. Your average student is paying to go to college. Before NIL, even when it was under board, you were getting a scholarship. Most kids were able to bet, but they're paying to go to school. You are getting paid. Back in the day, it was just a scholarship with all the enhancements. Now it's a scholarship and a lot of, as Kenny Powers likes to remind us,
dollar bills, y'all.
So I don't think it's unfair, even if the schools do take money from sports betting organizations. Like, it's not unfair. And as the business side gets involved, look, it's not the presidents. It's the athletic administrators at Georgia and Nebraska. Then it's the people in charge of athletics at the Big Ten and now the Big 12. I'd be upset if I'm those schools too. Because the one thing that stops the gravy train financially is not having to share the money with players. As much as they might lead you to believe that's the sky is falling. It's if fans tune in and don't believe that this is a legitimate product, because then they're going to ask the same question we've asked, which is, what in the Sam Hill are we actually doing here? And I can be all base, JJ, but that to me is the biggest threat. And that's why this is a big deal. And that's why last night conferences and schools have spoken out about this. I don't know if it's going to have a major impact right now on everything, but like if I'm the Big 12, I would want my own penalty in there. And if nothing else, it goes back to the thing we've discussed. Make them employees, collectively bargain. Players can think the penalties are unfair or draconian or whatever, but talk to your union. And it solves every problem.
Yeah, and I feel like every time you're watching, whether it's college athletics, pro athletics, what have you, anytime there's a commercial break, you're going to see ads for DraftKings, FanDuel, things of that nature. So it's just becoming more and more indoctrinated in sports as time goes on, and something's got to change, especially at the collegiate level, I feel.
Well, and look, you're talking about student athletes, and I get it. Back in the day, in the early 2020s, NIL was just becoming a thing. Now it's everywhere. Everybody's got rosters. Everybody's paid. You can have walk-ons and second and third string players at places like Virginia who are getting six-figure salaries. Let's just call it what it is. Like, they may not want to call them employees, but they're employees. So the game is different. The game is different. And again, I've never had a problem with athletes betting on other sports. But when it comes to your sport, it's pretty clear. And this is actually why you have legalized sports betting. And you try to make all this as above board as possible. Because the more legalized you get this, you have to enter your social security number. You have to enter your address. They know who you are. If you're in Allen Tisdale in Blacksburg, Virginia, placing a bet on a game, they're going to know that you may be the Allen Tisdale who plays football for the Virginia Tech Hokies. And yes, it's absurd that he self-reported himself for betting on the NBA and got suspended 9 games, but yet Texas Tech has a guy where the NCAA doesn't have enough power because they don't want to make them employees, that the quarterback goes to a judge and just gets it reduced to 2 games, and now we're stuck here debating this. And it's where we are. And it probably is the moral of the story that maybe Virginia Tech should have just gone to a local judge down in the Blacksburg, Christiansburg area in Montgomery County Court and said, hey, let's just go ahead and present this, because that's what everyone does, and middle fingers to the NCAA. But it goes back to academia not wanting to make them employees and not wanting to pay everything. And the reason why we're recycling this is, if nothing else, I want to know that you're trying your best to win when I tune in to watch a product. Because whether I'm a fan of a player or a team, a school or a coach, that is the crux of what I'm watching and trying to consume.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, that's all you can really ask for from the athletes on the field. You want everyone to be out there trying as absolutely hard as possible to win the games. And if there's financial motivations to losing or getting the under on their player props or what have you, that's going to just continue to develop into a bigger and bigger problem. And with this Sorsby ruling, that sets a dangerous precedent that, hey, you can gamble and you might get a slap on the wrist, but the punishment isn't going to be that severe.
I mean, how many other players could be caught up in this? Like, are we so naive to not believe that other players haven't gotten caught up in it? Like, we've seen it in basketball. What's this? Simeon Cottle for Kennesaw State, who was their leading scorer. And I would say at the midpoint of January was the favorite to be the Conference USA Men's Basketball Player of the Year at that time. All of a sudden gets caught in it, never to be heard or seen from again. And he's a good player. Like, he could have probably commanded NIL. Now, maybe somebody knew about that, and that's why he never left Kennesaw State. I don't know. Maybe we will never know about that. But he was one of like 10 or 11 that were involved in this in basketball. It's out there and everywhere. I had really no sympathy for it when you were getting a full ride. I have absolutely none for players right now, even though it's pervasive around you and your classmates are doing it. They get to do it and you don't. You know what you get to do and they don't? You get to get paid a lot of money to play a sport and capitalize on that while getting the free education that they are paying for. So that's why the rules are different. They should be different. But the easiest way to solve this, repeat after me, make them employees. Even if you're an anti-union person, it's the easiest solution. But that is the hill on which everybody in this group is willing to die, even if it means compromising the integrity. And I think it circles back to why Nebraska and Georgia, then the Big Ten, now even the Big 12 are coming out about this. And if I'm the ACC, I'm wanting to do the same thing. Like, why are we not doing this, Jim Phillips? Why are we not doing this, ACC? Because it's a business. And the one thing that compromises the business is not getting a rein on NIL, getting a rein on the transfer portal. It's making sure the product is good, or else that's when fans say, what am I doing with my time? Meanwhile, what are you doing with your time? You're going to InsaneRadioDeals.com because you like to save money. You do not like to light it on fire. And that's why you go to InsaneRadioDeals.com. Great food options like Downtown Cairo and Tacos Los Amigos. Sure, we're a month past Cinco de Mayo, but you can still enjoy premium authentic Mexican cuisine at Tacos Los Amigos on Business 29 in Madison Heights. So many other great food options await you. Shop 24/7 at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, other topics in.
It's time for Fast Five at Five-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
Not the antics, the outcome itself. The finals last night. Spurs come back. They hold on this time and knock off the Knicks and have they slice the Knicks series lead down to 2-1. You're the basketball guy, JJ. Were you surprised that the Spurs once again had a lead? They couldn't quite put this game away, but this time they at least found a way to hang on for dear life.
I can't say I was super surprised, Ed. I had one question going into the game tonight, and that was for Victor Wembanyama. I wanted to know, how great are you? He had the moment in game 2 where he had the turnover, missed shot at the end of the game. Game 1, he was 6 for 21. So, in my opinion, he's the greatest prospect in NBA history. The expectations are there. And playing in the most famous arena in the world, he stepped out and showed it that he is the greatest prospect of all time. He became the second youngest player to have a game with at least 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, trailing only Magic Johnson, who won Finals MVP as a rookie. And at the end of the day, this series is in the hand of Victor Wembanyama. If he's on, he is literally unstoppable. The alley-oop plays they have on the backside, you can't defend it at all. He's just too high up. You throw the ball at the top of the backboard, he'll go up and get it. And that's what the Spurs need, and I think this series is far from over.
Do you believe the Spurs are now in position to even this series up and flip the script coming out of tomorrow night on the VTRN Sports App?
Now, I think it's going to be tough for them to win 2 straight in MSG. I think the pressure kind of got to the Knicks in game 3 in a funny sort of way. I know the Spurs had to win to keep the season alive, but the pressure in MSG, the fans, the expectations were so high. I think it got to the Knicks a little bit, and they weren't able to perform at their best. I do see the Knicks taking game 4 tomorrow night. You can listen right here on ESPN Radio, Virginia Talk Radio Network, 93.3 FM.
My man, learning. We like it.
Yep. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks do take game 4, but I think if they go down 3-1, the series is still not over. 2 of those last 3 games would be in San Antonio. So all you really have to do is go win 1 on the road, and you could rattle off 3 straight and still win the finals if you're San Antonio.
You know, that's the interesting point about this, and we can get into this more tomorrow, but even if it's 3-1 Knicks going back to San Antonio, you almost feel like if you're the Knicks, the longer this thing drags out, the more the pressure goes to you because everyone's sensing a Game 7 could loom in San Antonio. And traditionally in Game 7, the best player often rises up because that's when everybody's thrown everything at everybody else. And the best player in that series finds a way to elevate his game. We've seen it countless times. I think you're right. This series is far from over. Meanwhile,
Number 4.
do you think it's over for the Carolina Hurricanes against the Vegas Golden Knights? That Game 4 will be tonight on the VTRN Sports app, 7:30 airtime from out in Las Vegas. Or Are you in the spot where this series has featured a lot of close games back and forth? Twice now, it's gone into overtime, multiple overtimes actually, but it's gone into extra frames. I mean, if anything, don't you kind of lean Carolina just because the nature of this series has been kind of coin flippy?
Yeah, absolutely. I do lean Carolina tonight. I think they got down big 4-0 in game 3. They have made the comeback, 4 goals, including 3 in 39 seconds in the third period, which was just unreal. And at the end of the day, they ended up losing because of a lucky break. A wide shot from the Knights bounced off the back wall, went off the goalie's foot, and went in the net. I don't see Vegas getting those kinds of breaks again tonight. I think Carolina responds in a big way.
I mean, the way the series has gone, that's where I'll go with Carolina. And these are veteran enough teams. I don't think home ice is as big of a deal in hockey as it is in other sports. I think it's impactful. I mean, it certainly give you a shot of adrenaline, but when we've seen teams win on the road in hockey, it's not the most uncommon thing. I lean Carolina tonight, but I mean, look, word to Brendan Sorsby or anyone else, do not take my advice and go bet on it. I don't have nearly the hockey knowledge that I might in other sports. Meanwhile,
Number 3.
I at least thought I had knowledge in tennis, but the French Open kind of proved that differently. Victoria Mboko and Serena Williams combined today to defeat Emily Ratajkowski. I might even be mispronouncing that lane. And Melikar Martinez in Serena's first match since 2022. It's a doubles match. She's back on grass 5 weeks late leading up to the championships at Wimbledon, July 11th and 12th. Do I think Serena, in my eyes, would be a contender for a singles crown? No. She hasn't played a singles or doubles match competitively since 2022. I mean, we're talking a 4-year period. You were getting ready to go into your freshman year at Virginia Tech, sophomore year at Virginia Tech?
Virginia Tech, it would have been.
I mean, it's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago.
It is. I would say this. I don't view her as a singles threat, but the benefit for tennis is not that. The benefit is that she's back. The benefit that she's teaming up with Victoria Mboko, who's a real rising star. I think she's actually got a chance to make some noise in a couple of Grand Slams in the near future. She's a phenomenal Canadian player, very powerful, just doesn't have a consistent forehand right now. But the combining of those two playing together, it's great for tennis. It gets people paying attention to doubles. Let's be honest. I mean, I play more doubles than singles, but most of the attention and discussion goes on singles tennis because that's people see the star players. When you can bring them into doubles, it's great. It's kind of like when the Australian Open had I think it was a great idea, but having the idea of having the top men's and women's players play mixed doubles essentially, even though it compromises others in the U.S. Open and Australian Open doing things like that, I think it's great. It adds people to the mix. It gets them paying attention. If Carlos Alcaraz is teaming up with, I forget who he teamed up with, but let's just say Iga Swiatek for a mixed doubles match. It brings your casual person in, and it gets more attention on the sport. And on that genre of tennis, I think it's a good thing. That's the biggest benefit for Serena is more eyeballs on her, more eyeballs on the sport, and more eyeballs on doubles tennis to appreciate just how uniquely different but still skilled of a discipline that actually is. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
2 NASCAR nuggets. One, Hall of Famer Ned Jarrett passed away at the age of 93 years old over the weekend. The number 11, he's kind of the OG for the number 11, and Denny Hamlin recognizing that and paying tribute to that after the race was fantastic. But, I mean, Jarrett's contributions are big. Everyone knows about his son being Dale Jarrett, the NASCAR Cup Series championship, but Jarrett won 2 Premier Series championships, 50 races, and I would say for me and a lot of people and fans, they knew him much more as the broadcaster with CBS, with ESPN. He did some work with the Motor Racing Network as well coming up. And while when I think MRN growing up, I think more Barney Hall, Joe Moore, Ken Squire than Ned Jarrett, he was part of that. And he helped shape the perception. He lived a fulfilling life. It's a sport in NASCAR where your legacy can live for a long period of time. And yes, the past continues to go forward, but do so in a very positive manner. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
being the past coming forward, the past champion in the Truck Series, Corey Hyman, is coming forward to run full-time in the Cup Series for 23XI, third car next year. This is an inevitability. It had to happen. Hyman is so gifted and disciplined of a driver, and based on, and look, I guess he's my guy, Ty Gibbs, but based on past feuds between Hyman and Gibbs, it was a long shot that Hyman would ever go to Joe Gibbs Racing. I'll be blunt. Their loss is 23XI's game. You get the talented driver in Tyler Reddick. You add another talented prospect that normally you probably wouldn't in Corey Heim. And while Bubba Wallace, I don't think is quite on their level as a prospect, he's still a good enough driver. He's won multiple races. He's capable of running at the front of the field. And clearly he brings an added sponsor element. He is a sponsor magnet. helping strengthen that organization, one of the stronger 3-team operations. When we get into the fast lane tomorrow, we'll discuss both of those with Caleb Barnes. But when we return, the Liberty Flames, they are on a football recruiting heater. And John Manson from SaveRide.com will step back into the fast lane and discuss that next here on the VTRN Sports app.
Celebrate 250 years of America with massive savings during the Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Right now, get an additional $250 fuel savings discount on all new and used vehicles. An additional $250 in fuel savings. Shop over 2,000 new and used vehicles in one location, including more than 1,000 quality pre-owned vehicles with most makes and models at the Used Car Superstore, plus 12 new car brands in Southwest Virginia: Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Subaru, Chevrolet, Buick, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Used cars starting at just $59.95. $59.95. And your trade is worth more. Shop local and save with straightforward pricing, exceptional service and selection, certified friendly staff, no games, no gimmicks, and more inventory arriving daily, plus flexible financing options for every budget. We've got the credit. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. The Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Example 2009 Chevrolet Impala, stock number KA260134B, plus tax tag title and $697 processing fee.
Big news, everyone. Earthright Roofing is giving away a free roof. Go to our website to read the terms and conditions and see if you qualify for up to a $10,000 asphalt shingle roof at no charge. Must be 15 years or older roof to qualify. Come to our showroom for a double entry into the contest or go online for an entry. Enjoy, and we look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you. Visit earthrightroofing.com or call our office at 434-248-3697 for more information about the contest. We look forward to hearing from you.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
Hi, I'm Al Billingsley, a board member with CASA of Central Virginia. Children who've experienced abuse or neglect often enter foster care feeling scared, confused, and alone. That's where CASA volunteers step in. We stand behind these children to make sure that their voices are heard in court. CASA is looking for caring adults from our community to serve as volunteer advocates. And as a man, I can tell you we're especially in need more men to step up for these kids. If you're ready to make a difference, learn more at cvcasa.org.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors. At Brownstone Properties, you'll find homes with private yards, with locations near scenic walking trails, or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
What moves you? Find what moves you at Move-A-Palooza, presented by Fleet Feet Roanoke. All day, Saturday, June 20th at Green Hill Park in Salem. Cultivate your wellness hub from Virginia's premier movement experts. Experience family-friendly events to introduce you to movement and community, giving you the emotional, physical, and mental community you need with continued access to the region's premier movement experts. Find what moves you at Move-A-Palooza, presented by Fleet Feet Roanoke. All day Saturday, June 20th at Green Hill Park in Salem.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Join me for Foster and Friends, Saturday 9 to 10 a.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I wouldn't say I'm afraid to look at Twitter, but I would say that every time I check out that app, it almost seems like I'm getting another notification from AseaofRed.com about the Liberty Flames adding yet another commitment. I mean, they're on quite the heater right now, at least from my outside perception. We get John Manson back in the Fast Lane. He is the founder and contributor for AseaofRed.com, and he joins us here in the Fast Lane today. Roman Jennings, the linebacker committing to Liberty over Memphis, Wake Forest, and others. Defensive lineman Jay-Sean McLeod and Troy Butler also committing to the Liberty Flames today. John, before we get into individual commitments, Can you remember the Flames being on a June heater quite like this in recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly been on one the past 2 weeks, picked up 11 commitments, over these past 2 weeks since the end of May, first of June. And Liberty's kind of always been, at least under Coach Chadwell these past few seasons, been very aggressive with their June official visit weekends, about 3 to 4 official visit weekends where they'll bring in, somewhere between 7 to 11 prospects each weekend, and have typically had pretty good success. But it seems like this year it's been maybe at a higher level, and especially with the quality of some of these commitments they've gotten. You mentioned a few there. I mean, Liberty's beaten out Power 4 schools. For most of these commitments they've gotten so far. And again, sometimes, you get these offer lists and you don't know exactly, like sometimes kids get offered by a Power 4 school, in their 10th grade season. And then when it comes time to start going on visits and things, some of those P4s drop off. But for kids to have those level of offers, whether they're committable offers or not, just shows you the type of talent Liberty is recruiting and going after. But yeah, 11 commitments so far over the past 2 weeks. That brings the class of 2027 to 12 commitments so far. And I'm sure we'll see more. Liberty is expected to bring in another group of prospects this coming weekend. So I'm sure, if we were to talk again this time next week, it would be up over that 11 or 12 mark at that point in time.
John Manson from AseaofRed.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. John, one of the things that has jumped out to me is the comparable schools that are offering these prospects from Liberty. They're not getting necessarily talent that would go to Texas or Georgia or Notre Dame or Miami or Oregon, but I mean, that's not who they should be targeting. That's a different budget from where Liberty is. But when you compare the talent they are bringing in with the other schools that are in the mix for them, how impressed are you by that fact that Liberty seems to be identifying guys that would be at comparable programs in the Power 4 or in the Group of 5, and they're beating them out?
Yeah, I mean, there's been several, Wake Forest, Boston College, Syracuse, those mid to lower level ACC type schools where you would think that Liberty could at least compete with some of those schools for some recruits. And especially as we talked about, last week, how, Liberty is such a unique institution, and they have some unique drawing aspects as opposed to some of these other schools that we mentioned. And yeah, Liberty's had some success. The other thing is you see a lot of these guys, they might have a few Power 4 offers, but also almost every single one has several Conference USA offers. Frequently seen FIU, Jack State, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, et cetera, in these offer lists. So, Liberty's having their fair share of success against fellow Conference USA schools, which you would expect with Liberty's level of success previously, and also, resources. Obviously, the Flames, we all know they fell off in 2025 on the gridiron with just a 4-8 record. But, if you take that season out, Liberty's been either competing for a Conference USA championship or obviously winning it like they did in 2023. So if the Flames can bounce back this year on the field, I think you'll continue to see these recruiting class rankings continue to increase year over year, as they pretty much have since the Flames made the move up to the FBS back in 2019.
SeaofRed.com's John Manson is with us in the Fast Lane. John, we would be remiss if we did not ask, is there a surprise that Liberty has had this much success on the recruiting trail, given that they're coming off of a disappointing season?
It's a good question, Ed, and it's something that I've kind of thought about over the past several weeks and months leading into the summer recruiting cycle. And, I'm not sure how much a win-loss record means for the most part at a Group of 5 school. Now, certainly, if you're able to make it to a Fiesta Bowl like Liberty did a few years ago, or like JMU did this past season and get to the CFP, I think you should be able to parlay that success into recruiting success and recruiting wins, which I don't think Liberty was able to capitalize off of that so much. So I'm not sure, how many of these recruits are, number one, that familiar with Liberty on the recruiting trail, and how many of them could say what Liberty's record was last season. Now, once they got to the point where they're committing to Liberty and things like that, they probably do know. They Google's your friend, AI is your friend, ChatGPT and things like that. You can search it real quick and real easy, and I'm sure that's something you'd be interested in. But I'm not sure how much your win-loss record plays into it, as far as just getting recruits to answer the phone when you call, to respond to your text, to take you up on visit opportunities or offers and communications like that. Especially, like I said, the almighty dollar talks the most, and Liberty's been able to establish itself as one of the top, NIL/revenue sharing players in Conference USA and in the Group of Five. And we've heard Ian McCall, Liberty's athletic director, talk previously about how the Flames are able to give some amount of revenue sharing to every single student athlete, whether it's a football player or women's swim dive athlete or men's tennis or track and field, or whatever sport it is. Liberty's been able to give some level of rev share to every single student athlete, and obviously football is on that list as well too.
John, I'll be honest, to get my usher on for a moment here in the fast lane. I don't think I quite gave that comment that you made about Ian McCall saying that every athlete at Liberty participates in rev share in some capacity quite the level of attention that it seems like it deserves. How important is that? Because if nothing else, when Liberty presents themselves to an athlete, they may not know exactly where the financial amounts start, but they know that Liberty is involved. And if nothing else, it gets Liberty a seat at the table and it cracks the door open to where they can have a discussion.
Yeah, I think it's huge, and I know it's something that is at least discussed at some level on the recruiting trail. And when you're able to tell a softball recruit or a tennis recruit that you are getting some level of rev share, and I'm sure each sport has certain layers for what they can do to earn more. So you have an open door to not just get some rev share dollars, but a path to get even more. Then I'm sure it's certainly something that prospective athletes are looking at, and it gets their attention. And it'll be interesting. We could talk about this, kind of dovetail this conversation a number of different ways, but we've seen some of the success some of these mid-major programs has had in baseball this past season, and there's been a lot of conversation about maybe Cinderella's dead in men's basketball, but maybe baseball is the next sport where you start to see some mid-major darlings where, some of these Power 4 schools, or most of the Power 4 schools, are putting so much of their NIL and rev share resources into, football and men's basketball, which is where they can get the most return on their investment. And it's letting other, mid-major programs that are well resourced find some success and some wins in some of these other sports, like a baseball. I think we've seen that with Liberty in softball. Obviously, the Lady Flames under Dot Richardson this year, we can sit there and say they had a bit of a setback this season. They still finished second in the conference and made it to the Conference USA Championship. And that was a double elimination tournament all the way through to the championship round, and not just a winner-take-all champion, where you remember Liberty was the winners of the winners bracket and defeated Jack State, the regular season title winner, in the first game in the winners bracket. And then Jack State advanced out of the losers bracket and then was able to knock off Liberty in that single game. So that was a true double elimination tournament. Maybe Liberty's winning a Conference USA championship for a third straight year in softball. But I think some of the success that the Flames had in softball, you go back to last year, is probably due to some of that NIL rev share type agreements that the Flames are able to have. And I think we'll continue to see that throughout the college landscape, not necessarily just affecting Liberty, but affecting other, mid-major and G5 programs where maybe you're not having as many Cinderella runs on the men's basketball hardwood, but maybe you're seeing it in baseball, softball, maybe even women's basketball, as some of those playing fields get leveled out a little bit more.
John, That's a great point. That's how we'll end our chat today. We really appreciate your stopping by with us in the Fast Lane, giving us an overview on the Liberty Flames football recruiting heater. And I imagine when we reconnect in a couple of weeks, we've got the College World Series next week. You're so smart. You pick that time to go on vacation with your family. It's actually a coincidence. But you guys when we chat in a couple of weeks, I presume we will be in a good spot where we'll have even more commitments to discuss.
Yeah, there's never a dry spell in the college athletic calendar nowadays, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about here in a couple weeks. And training camp, college football is right on the corner as well, too.
We look forward to it. John Manson from ASeaBread.com on all of that when we return. Football season is almost here, but it's actually kind of always football season. We may get into some more of that, but what does a professional handicapper think of it's Paul Stone, by the way. What does a professional handicapper think of the Brennan Sorsby situation at Texas Tech? Paul Stone is from the Texas area. He's familiar with that program. He is also a professional handicapper, and he will join us to give his perspective next here in the Fast Lane.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, newer, older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
What if counseling services were just a click away? With secure, confidential telehealth sessions through Central Virginia Counseling, you can connect from wherever you feel most comfortable, anywhere in Virginia. No commute, no waiting rooms, just personalized care designed to meet you where you are. Support is closer than you think. Start your journey today on your terms. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com to get started.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
When your mower is down, your crew is down, and downtime costs money. That's why Miller Built Outdoor Equipment has a sharp focus on commercial turf professionals, Toro commercial mowers, professional handheld equipment, and a service department that understands urgency. If turf is your business, let's build your fleet the right way. Miller Built Outdoor Equipment, built around your turf.
Who would think indoor air can be hazardous to your health? Poor indoor air quality can cause health problems. Pollutants in your home can cause flu-like symptoms such as headaches, nausea, and respiratory irritation. A whole house air cleaner and sterilizer installed on your HVAC system is one of the most cost-effective solutions to combat poor indoor air quality. To find out more, all it takes is one call to the Comfort People at Terrell E. Mosley. Reach out to them at terrellemosley.com.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
A lot of Virginia Tech fans are excited for that. There will come a time where we get the perspective on that with Paul Stone, pro handicapper, who is going to join us right now. There we go. We're training our new guy. JJ, you've seen him a couple times at VTR in Sports and Fastlane, Ed Lane. Now you see Paul Stone, friend of ours here in the Fast Lane. Paul, it's great to see your wonderful face. I'm sorry you have to endure our ugly face here in the Fast Lane, or mine in particular. But glad to have you back in the Fast Lane once again, and I hope and pray that all is well with you, Abby, and your entire crew down in Texas.
We're doing well, Ed. Thanks for asking. We've got a lot of rain here in the state of Texas, but the hot summer's on the way, so it's good to have a little rain in the in the lakes and so forth. So we're doing well, and we're I think as of today we're 74 days away from week 0, which the first game's on August 22nd. It'll be here before we know it. So looking forward to another season of college football.
As a champion of week 0, I am hoping and praying NC State at Virginia stays in week 0. We will look to that and look to those teams in a bit. But the big reason why we wanted to connect with Paul Stone, who is a professional handicapper, he's also spent time on where we are in the media, is the Brendan Sorsby situation. Paul, you're based down in Texas. Obviously, I'm sure you're very familiar with Texas Tech and that program. But just the most general question, as a professional bettor, what is your opinion on what all has transpired with Brendan Sorsby and how everything has gotten to the point now where a judge has granted him a temporary injunction and just a 2-game suspension?
Well, I mean, Ed, the last couple of months or however long it's been, this has been a roller coaster. I mean, it's up and down. You think, well, there's no way he's going to play. And now it looks like as of today, he probably will, or there's at least a good chance. But I would just point out there's 74 days, as I said, remaining before week 0. Texas Tech doesn't play for 81 days when they host Abilene Christian of the FCS. So a lot, I think, is going to happen between now and then, and a lot, may happen. So it's, it's just really a crapshoot. It's kind of wait and see. Obviously, yesterday, Judge Curry granted the temporary injunction to Brendan Sorsby. NCAA now will probably appeal that decision to the 7th Court of Appeals here in the state of Texas. And one thing to keep in mind, and you've perhaps read some of these stories, is even an accelerated appellate process with that court usually takes about 9 to 12 months. So if they drag it out, over 6 or 7, Brendan Sorsby has, he's gotten his wish. He's played the 2026 college football season. So I'm sure the NCAA is going to be asking for some type of expedited process. Also important to note that the 7th Court of Appeals, it's a 4-person panel of judges. They are elected, and they all are Texas Tech graduates. So the fact that they're elected and they're Texas Tech people, it's a little bit problematic. I'm not taking their integrity into question or anything like that, but I mean, it does. It's just kind of part of the system that a lot of people have concerns about. But it's going to be interesting. I don't buy into the narrative that Texas Tech's just all of a sudden going to do the right thing, not taking sides, and they're going to say it's just not worth it. There's going to be too much pressure on Brendan Sorsby, this, that, and the other. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think some other things, could happen along the way. I think the fact that yesterday Nebraska and Georgia both immediately said we're not scheduling Texas Tech in any sports. I heard a report from Pete Thamel earlier today that the Big Ten is meeting, and they're going to perhaps consider, telling all their schools not to schedule Texas Tech. And I know some have pointed out, hey, we hadn't played them in football forever. We hadn't played them in basketball forever. I think their end goal, these schools who have made this decision, is to get all the Power 4 schools, or as many of them as they can, on board to really put a lot of pressure on Texas Tech University. So it's unlike anything I've ever seen before, covering college football very closely for the last 35 or so years. It's just a very polarizing time. Maybe not polarizing, because most of the people who agree with the decision are Texas Tech supporters, and the people who kind of roll their eyes at it are going to be impartial or maybe not like Texas Tech. But it is just an ongoing story. And I think there's going to be many twists and turns between now and the start of the 2026 college football season.
Pro handicapper Paul Stone is with us in the Fast Lane. Paul Stone Sports on Twitter, and just put a .org on that to get his website and all of his information, as Paul is generous enough to join us in the Fast Lane. Paul, as somebody who bets casually, I actually happen to have 2-1 to win the Big 12 and 3-1 to make the college to be undefeated for Texas Tech this year. And I did that presuming Sorsby was not going to play. I think the roster was just that good. I don't want him to play, and it's less about my selfish bets and more about where college sports is, because I think is somebody who likes to throw some coin down occasionally on some games and some teams and futures. I'm doing it under the presumption that everybody's doing their best to help themselves win, and that the athletes should not be involved in this part of being paid a high salary in addition to scholarship. Where do you stand on that? Are you one in the boat where you don't like seeing something like this? Because, I mean, I would presume for you as a bettor, you too are trying to bet under the presumption that these people are doing their best to win, and this is a slippery slope.
Yeah, I mean, it is a slippery slope. And I mean, they get so much education on this. They're talking about education being part of his rehabilitation, but he's had so much education. Every day they go in that locker room, they hear it. NCAA people come into into the program in the spring and things like that. It's just thrown at them all the time that you don't bet. And I think the most problematic part of all the bets that Brendan Sorsby allegedly made was the fact that he bet unders in games that he was not suited up, apparently. But when at Indiana, he bet under allegedly on a quarterback's passing yardage, and also under on the team points, the team total on Indiana. So that, anything's possible. People will do anything for money. And I mean, we saw like the deal with Nancy Kerrigan, and this might not be the best example, but Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding so many years ago. I mean, Tanya Harding hires a goon to go hit her rival across the knees with a baton. I mean, why wouldn't Brendan Sorsby, the morning of the game, maybe put something in their food or their drink that wouldn't hurt them, but might affect their ability to play? I mean, I'm not saying he would, but I mean, it just brings so much into question, and it's, it definitely is a concern. And I mean, there's more Brendan Sorsby's out there, maybe not at the level that he's participated, but I know he's not the only one in college football, not the only one in major college football. So it's an issue, and I don't agree with the court decision, and I think you don't either. I know they're not in the business of setting precedent, but it just, NCAA tries to make these rules. They're clear about the rules, and then the court just comes in and pulls the rug out from underneath their feet, and they have no ability really to enforce it.
I agree with you. I'm not a fan of the ruling. I've thought for the longest time this is why I know they're holding out every step to not make them employees, but when you got that type of collective bargaining set up, Paul, essentially you may not like how in the NFL Roger Goodell rules on player discipline, but if a player tries to take it to court, the court's just going to say talk to your union when you don't like something, and that solves a lot of these problems, and frankly, it keeps the level of order even if people don't like it.
Yeah, and kind of along those same lines, Ed, I saw where the Big Ten and the SEC, it's paramount to have them on board as far as the Protect College Sports Act. That's a federal act that some feel like might kind of be on life support right now. But I saw a report just a short time ago from Pete Nakos, who does a great job covering college football, that Big Ten and SEC presidents are meeting virtually tonight with members of the U.S. Senate. So the SEC's, both those conferences have voiced their opposition recently to that act, but at least they're coming back to the table. And I just have to wonder if this Brendan Sorsby court decision in Texas was kind of the impetus for that, because they see the need to get something done. These issues like Brendan Sorsby's need to be resolved at the federal level and as part of an agreement, as you're mentioning, and not at the state level before a judge or a panel of judges who are elected by the very people who might support the team that the player is on. So it's needed. I know it's going to be messy. I know it's going to be imperfect. And I don't, like a lot of people, you just wonder if Congress gets involved, if it's going to be, worse than it was before. But I think we're at the point of desperation where I'm not sure it could be a whole lot worse. So I think it's positive that they're talking about it and trying to maybe work out some of the points that they're in disagreement with.
A professional handicapper's perspective on what's going on with Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech. Paul Stone is generous enough to lend that with us today here in the Fast Lane. Paul, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask this out of you, but just when your outlook for Texas Tech goes forward, at what point do the volume of distractions turn into something where you go, all right, it may not be an issue against Abilene Christian, but is there a cumulative effect you wonder about over the course of the season?
There could be. And I'll say this, Brendan Sorsby's a very good college quarterback, but he's not Arch Manning. He's not Trinidad Chambliss. I don't even put him in the same category as Julian Sayin and CJ Carr and those guys. He's in that, he's in that 6 to 15 range. He might be a top 10 quarterback. He's certainly an upgrade from last year's starter, Bayron Morton. But even if he's not able to play, a guy who has been their backup the last couple of years, has started 3 games for the Red Raiders the last couple of seasons, Will Hammond. I don't think, I only raise Texas Tech's power rating by 3.5 or 4 points with Sorsby at quarterback versus Hammond at quarterback. Hammond is coming off of an ACL injury he suffered last October. It's unclear whether he's going to be ready for the start of the season, but he is going to be ready to play apparently fairly early in the year. So not a great drop off there. I would love to fade Texas Tech in some of these betting markets, but it's just difficult because their level of competition. Their win total is 11.5, heavily juiced to the under. It's hard to say what game they would lose, but it's hard not to stub your toe at least one time. But the under 11.5 is minus $2 at one book, and that's a very prohibitive price to pay. So I'm not interested in that. And you talked about Abilene Christian, the opener. They go to Oregon State in week 2. Their other non-conference game is Sam Houston, which is one of the worst FBS teams in the entire 138-team structure. So they play a very easy non-conference schedule. The Big 12 is not very top-heavy. I think BYU is their main competition. I think Houston is third. And then I think not BYU, but Utah I would pick 4th. But with Brendan Sorsby at quarterback, Texas Tech, by my estimation, will be favored by double digits in all 12 regular season games. With Will Hammond, they might be 7 points, 7.5 to 9.5 points in some of those games. But they're going to be favored by at least a touchdown, in my opinion, whether it's Brendan Sorsby or Will Hammond. So I don't, downgrade the Red Raiders significantly if they do end up having to go with Hammond. Looking at some of these betting markets, I looked at BetMGM this afternoon in preparation for this, and they have Texas Tech minus 150 presently to win the Big 12. And looking at some of the other teams, I just wouldn't pay that prohibitive of a price. I saw BYU at BetMGM at plus 650, Houston at 20 to 1. I would probably split a unit on BYU and Houston and just expect Texas Tech to be a little bit worse for the wear with all this drama around the program, and also anticipating the possibility that Brendan Sorsby indeed might not play at all this season or only a portion of the season.
Paul Stone with us here in the Fast Lane. Paul, thanks for tying all this together as cleanly as possible. We are grateful for a professional handicapper's perspective on Brendan Sorsby. We appreciate it, and I would love to catch up again later this summer as we get closer to the start of week 0, which, as you noted, almost 73 days away.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ed, and y'all have a great summer, and call me anytime.
We always appreciate it. Paul Stone, appreciate his generosity with us today here in the Fast Lane. That does it for us. Now on to a little bit of Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio, and then Game 4 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, Carolina at Vegas, still to come right here on the VTRN Sports app.
The Bulls, and they wanted Michael Jordan to win. So yeah, the league wanted the Heat to win because they knew the Knicks